గొంతుకవారు. ది మాంక్ హూ బికేమ్ చీఫ్ మినిస్టర్ వంటి గ్రంథాలతో నాయకత్వం వెనుక ఉన్న త్యాగం, క్రమశిక్షణను దేశానికి చూపించిన వ్యక్తి. మాటల్లో స్పష్టత, ఆలోచనలో ధైర్యం, రచనలో నిజాయితీ. ఇదే శాంతను గుప్తా గారి శక్తి.
ఇప్పుడు వాళ్ళు మాట్లాడేది నా ఫోన్లో కూడా వస్తుంది. ఇది 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 సెలెక్ట్ చేయి, స్క్రీన్ కొంచెం జరుపు, లేకపోతే మాట్లాడితే వచ్చేస్తాడు సార్.
I can hear you. I can see the video feed. The speaker should get it done.
ఇక మీరు అటుంటే నేను దూరం పోతా, పెట్టుకుంటే పెట్టుకోవాలి. మీరు సౌండ్ తగ్గించేసాను, మొత్తం మీరు సౌండ్ తగ్గించేసి మ్యూట్ కూడా పెట్టేసుకోండి. మ్యూట్ ఓకే ఓకే. జూమ్ బయటకు వెళ్ళిపోయిందా?
ఆఫ్ చేస్తున్నాను, కంప్లీట్ ఆఫ్ చేస్తున్నాను.
అక్కడ ఏమన్నా మాట్లాడితే వస్తుంది.
మాట్లాడు.
మాట్లాడితే సార్ మాట్లాడితే నేను ఆయన ఇద్దరమే ఉన్నాం.
మాట్లాడు, చెప్పు ప్లీజ్. యువర్ ఆన్ ద స్క్రీన్, ప్లీజ్ స్పీక్ ఓవర్ అని.
హలో సార్, గుడ్ ఆఫ్టర్నూన్ సార్. యూ కెన్ స్టార్ట్. సార్ వి ఆర్ స్టార్ట్ సార్.
Everybody is ready? Everybody is ready? Everybody is ready?
అంటే బయట సౌండ్స్ దాంట్లో
లేకపోతే ఎట్లా వస్తుంది? మనం అక్కడే పెట్టాలి మైక్.
వీడియో మీరే ఇక్కడ నుంచి ఏమన్నా మాట్లాడాలంటే.
Gentlemen, I'm waiting for you to advise me as to when I can start. You to advise me as to when I can start. You to advise me as to when I can start. You to.
ప్లీజ్ కంటిన్యూ సార్.
Much. Thank you. Thank you. Pandit. There is a lot of feedback coming. Okay, I'm going to continue. Is that okay?
ఓకే సార్. ఓకే.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Om Jai Shri Ram to everybody. Good morning to you from London. Om Guru Bhyo Namaha. I'd like to thank Elder Brother Shri Ram Babuji and the Sanstha for an opportunity to speak with you. And it's an honor for me to be speaking in front of eminent scholars and people who I've admired for a long time, such as Shastri Garuji, and obviously my brother in arms, Shantanuji. A pleasure to be connected with you again. And the friends at the Hindu Jan Jagruti mission as well. Namans to all of you. I was thinking about what I could share with you today in the presence of so many wise people and people who are Dharma gurus in their own right. And I thought I can probably share something which is a little bit different, and that is I have a great deal of expertise and experience in Dharma. We have people in our community who have studied Dharma Shastra, Dharma Vidya for a long period of time. But how many have studied Adharma? Myself, I was born in Bharat, but I've been in Europe for over 60 years. And so there is no aspect of Adharma which I'm not familiar with. If I can share an example with you, a fish doesn't appreciate water until it's taken out of water. And then it understands everything about how important water is. And it's the same with Dharma. Sometimes I feel that to fully understand what Dharma is, you need to be in a situation where Adharma prevails. And living in London, the heart of the British colonial empire, which was the most adharmic empire, I have a great deal of expertise in Dharma. I've been asked to speak about Dharma, and there are two or three things that struck me. One is we are in a period of Kali Yuga, and Kali Yuga is the last of the 4 yugas. And I was thinking, in those 4 yugas, when you get to Kali Yuga, how much avidya is installed in our minds, in our language, in our conversations. This is the period where we have the most confusion, the most noise, and we have the most avidya as well in our thinking. And so I was thinking, what can we do to help clarify our own thinking? Before Hindus act, we need to understand. In order to understand, we need to think clearly. In order to think clearly, we need to have a very, very pure vision of what it is we are trying to deal with. And so I thought I'm going to spend a few minutes just talking about how adharmic ideas, how avidya has become so deeply a part of our samskaras that we are always challenging avidya before we can see through to vidya. One of our Rigved shlokas, one of the mantras which is very common is Asatoma Sat Gamaya Tamasoma Jyotir Gamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. And I thought this is such a fantastic shloka for us to carry with us all the time. In Kali Yuga, Asat is more than it is in any of the yugas. In Kali Yuga, our communities face so much tamas, the burden, the weight of tamas is very, very high. And I think everybody would agree that as Bharatiyas in Bharat, Mrityu has become a part of our daily existence and of incredible concern and worry for us. So I thought Asatoma Satgamaya is a wonderful, wonderful tool for us to navigate avidya as well, and adharma. When I listen to people in Bharat talking about dharma, the number of times I hear dharma parivartan, and every time I hear it, I feel that it is not possible to change dharma. Dharma is it's a part of creation. It's like a harmony, an orchestra. Dharma is the symphony that everything is playing its small musical instrument part in. And Dharma is the dance of all of the things of creation. How do they interact? And so how do you change from Dharma Vidya to to something else. Dharma Privartan is a statement which is in itself false. It's a flawed statement. If I give an example, we have eyes which can see color. On a tree there may be an apple, and when the apple is ready to be consumed and its seeds are ready to be distributed, it changes color. It goes from green to red, and our eyes can see this. Our tongue loves to have the taste of an apple. This is a communication that is going on all the time. And Dharma Vidya is actually the knowledge of all of communication between all of creation. It is the knowledge of how all things interact so that everything can fulfill its swadharma. How on earth can you change out of that? When I hear Dharma Parivartan, it strikes me as somebody saying biology Parivartan, physics Parivartan, mathematics Parivartan. There is no such thing as Dharma Parivartan. And we need to have this clear in our mind. We are the children who are descendants of rishis, and rishis were the people who tried to see how does everything interact? How does the world, this creation, this Brahman function? And their vidya that they gave to us is Dharma Vidya. And so Dharma is the laws, the interaction, the rules, the harmony, the music, the score, the symphony of the universe. And Dharma Vidya is our Rishi's attempt to record it. So the first thing I would ask everyone to do is whenever you hear Dharma Parivartan, please be clear in your own mind that Dharma Parivartan is as impossible as mathematics Parivartan, physics Parivartan. And this is a great example, I think, for us to use when we try and work with purifying our own understanding. Another word that I've heard is how many times do people talk of idols? I have heard many times during the Ayodhya inauguration, the Pran Pratishta, many commentators were saying, and the idol is being consecrated. Now the idol is being installed. Now we are having darshana of the idol. Idol, idol, idol. Idol has a meaning, and the literal meaning of the word idol is false god. So whenever we use the word idol instead of vigraha or instead of murti, then we are actually buying into the idea that yes, we are believers in a false god. And this too makes us a little bit confused. Confusion is our biggest enemy. So whenever somebody is referring to a murti or a vigraha, please stop them from using the word idol, and we would prefer other people to use our language. English people, when I speak with them now, when they talk to me, they don't say idol anymore, they say murti. And I've explained to them what murti is, and they understand it, and that's a big step forward. Our children need to have this level of clarity if they are going to know where Dharma Vidya stops and where Adharma Vidya starts, or Avidya, Adharma Avidya, I guess, starts. We need to have that clarity, and that is a part of the work that's facing us. If I can have another moment of expansion of this confusion, one of the most toxic subjects being discussed at this time is the subject of caste. And how many times I hear on a daily basis people talking about upper caste, lower caste, and buying into this idea that caste is something that is a part of our Sanathani traditions. It isn't. Caste is nothing to do with Dharma Vidya. In fact, caste is adharma. Caste is avidya. And I'll be very careful because I think we need to understand again what the word caste means. Caste has a very specific meaning: hereditary, hierarchical, and endogamous. And of those three, the hierarchical part is a complete falsehood. The hierarchy is something we have to reject. So whenever somebody says, yes, I'm part of upper caste or he's lower caste, we're automatically falling into the trap laid for us by people who did not want us to be prosperous. They wanted to steal the assets of our civilization, and they realized there were too many of us to defeat, and so they worked out how to make conflict between us. Just to be crystal clear, the people who created these ideas, at the same time they were in part of creating things like caste and so on, they were in places like Tasmania killing all of the indigenous people of the islands, completely eradicating them, committing genocide. They were doing the same thing in America. And if you remember, when they got to America, they called them Indians. They were thinking that they were killing all of the people who were indigenous as Indians. And these were the people who came and put these words into our thinking. And so in order for us to decide on what to do, we have to be able to think clearly, and then we will be able to act clearly. So my request firstly is, please never fall into the trap of using the names and the structures and the frameworks that the colonizers created for us. Caste is not jati. Caste is not varna. Caste is not kul, it's not biradri, it's not gotra, or any of those things. It is a very particular word, and it is an adharmic word. So we should not buy into that. The challenge that we, I think, are going to face more than ever is one of samskaras. And I'd like to just clarify what a samskara is. In my understanding, and I'm happy to be corrected by more wise people, is that when a child is between the ages of 2 and 7, anything that that child hears, it will accept as satya. You can teach that child that Santa Claus is real, and it will believe it. You can teach that child that it's a sinner, and it will believe it. You can say whatever you wish to that child during that age, and it will be accepted, and it will sink into the subconscious. This is what a samskara is. They are the truths which are in the depths of our subconscious. The most valuable treasure in our Sanatani civilization are the vidhis, the rituals, the artis, the bhajans, the murtis, the vigrahas, the paintings, the stories, the kathas, and everything else. These are the storehouse of our samskaras. And when our children receive them from us, they acquire a value system, which is a value system connected with rishis. Our children, we want them to grow up as rishis, and rishis are people who look for satya. If I give you one example, Galileo, actually before Galileo, there was a man called Copernicus, Nicholas Copernicus. And this is going back into the 1400s, 1540 something or other. Yeah, 1540, Copernicus said that the Earth is not at the center of the solar system. He said the sun is at the center of the solar system, and the Earth spins on its own axis. He was a rishi. He did this, he put this statement forward because he had studied and looked deeply. And he was imprisoned for the rest of his life by the Roman Catholic Church because they said, no, the Earth is at the center of the universe and everything goes around the Earth. So Copernicus was a rishi. He was looking for satya. And yet those people who had built powerful structures by belief, they imprisoned him. And in fact, his work, the book that he had written, was published and given to him on his deathbed. As he died, they gave him a copy of his book. This is the conflict that happens between a culture of rishis and a culture of believers. And we, Sanatani, people of the Sanatani family, we are from a rishi culture. This is really, really important. Dharma is something we have seen. We have had darshana of what Dharma is. And then we created Dharma Vidya. Galileo, I mentioned, he was a student of Copernicus's work. 120 years later, in 1663, he said the same thing. He said, no, 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 the Earth cannot be the center of the solar system. Here is my mathematics, this is my study, He was a rishi. So if you want to, you can say to people, well, both Copernicus and Galileo, both of them were Hindus. They were members of the Sanathana Dharmic family. They were part of the Rishi Parampara. And Galileo too was challenged by the church, and he too faced house arrest. The Roman Catholic Church, the Pope, in 1992, 320 years after Galileo had said that no, the Earth is actually not the center of the solar system. The Pope in 1992 issued an apology after the 329 years. This is the fight that's actually going on at the moment, and it's the fight that's going on everywhere. You can't enslave a rishi. You can't enslave a culture, a civilization of rishis. When these people came to Bharat, what they found was a civilization of Galileos and Copernicus's. They found a culture which was based on searching for Satya, not a culture which was based on organizing society by belief by force. And this was an unbelievably difficult thing for them to understand. When the German scholars studied Sanskritam, they found a language which was so perfect, it frightened them. And the scholars in Germany, many of them significant parts of the Christian church, they realized that if this knowledge comes back to Europe, then what we have been saying for thousands of years will be shown to be completely false. So they faced an existential threat, and what they decided was to remove that which was an existential threat to their hegemony. This is the same civilization which found women across Europe who were the custodians of wisdom and killed them and burned them at the stake, declaring them to be witches. This is the same civilization which tore that woman philosopher, Hypatia, limb from limb because she would not accept belief and she wanted to have rishi status. She wanted to see Satya. And so this is who we are at this time. This is the same civilization which went to Africa, and the people of wisdom, the people who were the custodians of medicines, the Ayurvedacharyas of the African continent, they were labeled not as witches, but as witch doctors. And because they put the name of witch next to it, that authorized them to kill those people as well. So when they came to Bharat and they found that in Bharat there was also a traditional ancient lineage of wisdom keepers, people who had devoted their life to preserving the samskaras and the Dharma Vidya generation to generation, they had to destroy them. And because Bharat was such a large nation and the civilization had so many people, they couldn't just go ahead and erase them. What they did do was to work out, and Lord Elphinstone stood up in the House of Lords and made this statement. He said, we have to use divide and rule. We have to get these people to fight each other and eradicate each other. And while they're doing this, we will steal their Dharma Vidya. And this is what they did. So what I would like to do is to wrap up with a very contemporarily important observation and share a little bit of information with you. This, I mentioned the word caste, and I'm just going to share 2 bits of information with you. In the United Kingdom in 2016, the Hindu community were accused of being caste extortionists. That here we subjected to our own Hindu community members discrimination on the basis of caste. There was no evidence for it, and respected Ram Babuji, he has read the book that I had to produce. But in that book, I did a lot of research as to how this caste issue was created and who was responsible for it. And if you really want to dig in and find the evidence behind the words I'm going to share with you, this is the book that I shared at that time. And Caste Conversion, a Colonial Conspiracy, Dr. Ram Babuji will be able to share it with you. But in it, I made an observation and I found some information which I want to share briefly. Okay, so this was in 1911 when an administrator of the East India Company, he writes in his census report two things. One, he says, we hate the caste system, but we are responsible for the system which we deplore. And he also writes that on the basis of his lifetime in Bharat, that before the British came, the caste identity was really very fluid. Now what he's actually saying is that they created caste and they hate it because of what it has done. Before it, there was a Jati Varna system and it was fluid. Now he's also said in his notes that these jatis these castes have been largely manufactured and almost entirely preserved as separate castes by the British government. So I just want to share those 2 points of information with you because they are, in this day and age, at a government level and in many institutions, they are assumed to be truths. So the last bit of satya that I would like to share with you is that to say that being born a Hindu means you are born into a caste, that is false. That is not true. It is asatya. And so whenever you hear somebody mention the word caste, start the process of saying, no, I do not have castes. Castes are not dharmic. In fact, castes are adharmic, they are avidya, and they are not part of our Sanathana tradition. Once we start to get this clarity with our dharma gurus, with our dharmacharyas and everybody else, we will start to see a meeting of our minds. We will see confusion start to disappear, and we will then start to see change begin to happen. We will know what to do, we will know what to say, we will know when to do it. And we will be able to defeat the nonsense that is now being proliferated, such as the UGC guidelines and the philosophy behind it. In conclusion, I would say please remember, in Punjab we have an old story where two brother dogs would share a roti every day until a mischievous monkey came along who was very hungry, and he realized the only way he would be able to take that roti from them was to get them to fight amongst each other. In this scenario, the only enemy is the enemy who has come from outside and who has created a family feud within our family. And what we should be doing, if we're wise people, is identifying the true enemy and finding a way to resolve this family feud, which has caused so much harm to the fabric of our Sanathani community, and which will cause even more hardship amongst our children in the years to come. We are clever enough to do this, we have the language to do this, we're acquiring the courage now to do this, and this is a responsibility that falls on our shoulders and our shoulders alone. I'll conclude my conversation at that moment in time, and if there is anybody who has a response or a rebuttal, I will pass back to your moderator. And thank you very much for the opportunity to share some words, and I look forward to visiting Hyderabad in the very near future as well. Thank you very much. Jai Shri Ram.
Would you want to
Yeah, I asked this question when we met last time also. Uh, when you talk about caste, a lot of people who want to blame us, the Westerners, the leftists, the Islamists, they will try to quote stories from Ramayana and Mahabharata, right? The Shambhuk Vad from Ramayana and the Eklavya Katha from, or Eklavya and Karna both, Kathas from Mahabharata. So I'm saying I love if you can give a response to both of them. Yeah.
Okay, so firstly, let's deal with this issue to do with Eklavya is a great example. You will hopefully recall I just mentioned samskara, right? Samskara actually are the foundation of character. To a person whose character is not founded on the right samskaras, they will do the wrong things with it. You know, I often think we made a big mistake sharing mathematics with the West. Right? We shared the vidya of the nuclear technology, and they created a bomb out of it. Oppenheimer openly has declared his affinity with our Vedic Vidya, and as so many of them have. So Adhikar is a phrase which was an important part of our teaching. We would have to establish Adhikar on the basis of samskara. Now, if you recall the story of Karna, it was exactly the same. He acquired Vidya from Rishi Bhardwaji under false pretenses. And so Bhardwaji said to him, this Vidya will desert you when you need it the most. Why? Because your samskara are flawed. You have lied. You have made a deceitful relationship. And so when Eklavya, who had mastered technology, but his character wasn't formed on the basis of his knowledge, his power of weaponry in the wrong manner, to not serve Dharma. And if I give you another example which should spell this out, Dronacharyaji, he went against this principle of samskaras and adhikar when he gave the Brahmastra to his own son. He should never have given the vidya of the Brahmastra to Ashwathama, because Ashwathama's samskaras were flawed. And so the notion that it was a racist, it was a caste-based discrimination for Eklavya, it's so shallow. It's not even established according to Shastra themselves. Eklavya had mastered technology, but he hadn't mastered morality. He hadn't mastered ethics. And it was on that basis that he was denied the opportunity to use those weapons. This is a fundamentally important concept for us at this moment in time, when AI is beginning to be prevalent in so many places. We are seeing so many people who are masters of AI who have absolutely appalling characters. They have no sense of harmony, they have no sense of dharma, they have no sense of affinity with the earth, with creatures, and with each other as well. And yet they are becoming very, very powerful with technology. So adhikar is a really important aspect when you're trying to understand Shastra and who received and who didn't receive. Is that an acceptable response to you, Shantanuji, for this particular scenario?
I am very happy to listen to you, particularly when you said, don't say idol, but say Vigraha or Murti. Yes, between the terminology of English and the terminology of either Sanskrit. Either Sanskrit. You have problem to listen to my question? Hello? Can you listen? Can you listen, Sharma ji?
Yes, I can hear you clearly
Thank you, thank you. Pranam ji. Uh, Actually, I am very happy to listen to you with reference to when you said, don't say idol, but say either Vigraha or Murti. As there are basic differences between the terminology that is used in English and in our Indian languages, particularly Sanskrit based. Most of our language terminology is based on Sanskrit only, isn't it? So I got this problem when not only myself, many people, when we express with reference to your food habits,
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
could with reference to our food habits, when they call it vegetarian or non-vegetarian, isn't it? Vegetarian or non-vegetarian. But as far as our food habits are concerned, we don't differentiate in that way. Like we have Satvika Ahara, Rajasahara and Tamasahara. So, in this way, I think when you said that the difference between the terminology, Vigraha or Murti and idol, this is also a very important one, but because whenever we, face some others, the problem arises. So, how can you say you are a vegetarian when you take milk products, particularly, isn't it? So, I think we have to change to say that this is vegetarian or non-vegetarian, but we must say Rajasa food. And both of these consist even tamas. So, please enlighten about this one and give your opinion also. Namaste.
That's a wonderful
Thank
question.
you.
It's a wonderful question, and it's a question that we need to answer so many times. So here is my response when people ask me this, what the difference is. And it's slightly broader than just the question you've asked, because we have this Yoga Vidya which talks about Panch Kosha. And our food is actually judged on its capacity to nourish all of the koshas. Whereas food which is in the West, they create it normally to stimulate Anmaya Kosha, and it doesn't matter if it diminishes Pranmaya Kosha or causes unsettlement in Manomaya Kosha. And so when I talk about food, I always say sattvic food nourishes all of the koshas. And this is our way of identifying what is good food and what is right food. When you just talk about vegetarian or when you talk about non-vegetarian, it doesn't cover the depth of understanding that we have about how the body is to be nourished by food. And so on that basis, I always say, I want to stick with the idea of sattvic or tamasic or rajasic. That means something to me, and it means so much more than vegetarian or non-veg. So again, it's part of us saying, this is who we are, this is how our language works, this is how our language contains our vidya, and we're not going to drop our language for cheap, two-dimensional, inaccurate labels just for the convenience of people who don't understand our language. This is a time when we have to stand and say, no, this is who we are. We want to use our words, beginning and end. That's the start and finish of it. And I think we're getting into the time now when we can do this more and more. It takes a bit of courage. Once you start to do it and you hold firm to it, it becomes easier, and then people will accept you and people will respect you as well. One thing I have learned about being in the West, they are competitive by nature. Everything is adversarial. Their legal system is adversarial. Their commercial system is adversarial. Whereas we tend to be instinctively collaborative because collaboration is dharmic. We always look for a collaboration. Whereas they judge respectfulness and respect worthiness on who wins. Jo Jita Vohi Shivaji, as an example. This is how they determine it. So when you say no, we are going to use sattvic, we don't like vegetarian, they will actually respect you. And then you have to substantiate it and teach it, which is how we do things here. I hope that helps.
It's a
So either everybody's fallen asleep because of lunch, or there's a technical issue because I can't hear anything at all. A member of the House of Lords, a retired bishop of Oxford, Lord Harries of Pentrigarth, he stood up. And I'm a fellow of the Royal Asiatic Society, and I discovered an interesting piece of information, that the decision to set Hindus fighting against other Hindus was actually made in Madras in 1844. And it was a group of people who were fellows of the same Asiatic Society that I'm a fellow of. And so I had all of their notes. I found all of their notes, I found their records, in which they write things like, we have to break the Jati Varna interaction. If we're going to convert people, in fact, one of them said, the one thing betwixt Christ and these pagans is India's institution of caste. And he was actually referring to Jati at that time in 1844. So I spent 2 years with all the research, and then I shared it with parliamentarians, I shared it with members of our Hindu community, that this thing, caste, is something that these people, these Christianists, created to divide us so that they could rule us. And we stopped it here in the United Kingdom. Eventually, the government came to the conclusion that this isn't evidenced, and the people who are behind this are actually mischievous. Now, you'll probably be surprised to know that in 2023, the same group of activists who are associated with the DMK, they turned up in California and started to make exactly the same allegations, that the Hindus in Silicon Valley are caste racists and they are discriminating against each other and so on. And again, it took the best part of 2 years. I was invited to go and speak there, and I was part of a very large conference that we organized, where we discussed everything to do with caste, with the history, with jati, with varna, with the manner in which conversion is implemented, this thing called Dharma Parivartan and everything. We discussed it all. And eventually in California, the governor of the state of California, Governor Newsom, he vetoed the bill. Otherwise the bill would have gone through and they would have had the SC-ST type act in California as well. And so now we've come to Bharat, and in Bharat there is an increasing, shall we say, a movement which is making the same false allegations that were made against the British Hindu community and the American Hindu community. They're making those same arguments in Bharat, and we have to rebut them and we have to defeat them. The consequences of us not doing this are that our children will be arguing with each other without ever knowing that they have become victims of a third party who benefits from their friction. In Punjabi we have a saying that when two elephants fight, the grass is always destroyed. And so if you want to destroy somebody's garden, you arrange for 2 elephants to fight in their garden. Everybody's focused on the elephants, but nobody is noticing that the ground underneath is being destroyed. And in this example, the ground underneath is actually our Sanathani civilization. And so we have to be, I know it's hard when one has been hurt, when one has had one's rights taken away, when one's children are threatened. But we have to accept that if we focus on our pain and on our trauma alone, then it'll be hard to repair this family feud. We've managed to do this here in the UK. We managed to do it in the United States. And with the support of the Sanatan Prahat and the Janjagriti Sangh and other organizations, and wise erudite people like yourselves, we have to heal this family wound. That's the way forward. And I'm hoping that I will get permission to hold a caste conference of exactly this maybe next month, maybe the month after. And if it does, then I will be obliged and delighted to share information with Ram Bapuji.
So, with all appreciation, globe, we appreciate whatever efforts you are doing, and we will take a cue from you, and maybe out of this 220 people attending here, maybe 15% will take the cause, and definitely we will be opposing the UGC that's going to be enacted in the parliament in the coming days. So with these few words and the appreciation to you, we would say bye-bye to you now. And due to some technical inconveniences, we were not able to accommodate you on time. I feel sorry from all our, on behalf of all our attendants.
Jai Shri Ramaji. My compliments to all of you, and Om Guru Bhyo Namaha to the respected elders in the audience as well. Om.
Jai Shri Ram. So, ladies and gentlemen, టెక్నికల్ ఇబ్బందుల వల్ల ఆలస్యం జరిగింది. కానీ మనం ఇండియాలో ఏదైనా సరే సాధించేందుకు జుగాడ్ అనే ఒక ప్రక్రియ ఉంటుంది మన దగ్గర. ఆ జుగాడ్ వల్ల ఆయన్ని మనం యూకే నుంచి వినటం జరిగింది. ఐ థ్యాంక్ మై కొలీగ్ శివకుమార్ టు హ్యావ్ ఇన్వెంటెడ్ దిస్ జుగాడ్. థ్యాంక్ యూ.